So Alakai, how did we meet?
So we met through a mutual friend back in 2000. It was 2017.
Mm-hmm.
We met back in 2017 through a mutual friend. And one of the first questions you asked me was, "What are you doing for this summer?" I knew, like, in the back of my mind, I was just like, this guy is asking me to do summer sales with him, isn't he? Which it kind of was, but also not really. It wasn't that aspect. And we kind of kept in touch since we had met at the time and worked together with Vivint in installing home security.
Yep, that is we did.
And been friends ever since. At least I think we're friends.
Yes.
So,
yes,
okay.
we are definitely friends.
Wonderful.
In case you were curious, if you weren't sure where our relationship lies, yes, we are friends.
Look, man, I need lots of reassurance, okay? Like,
come on, man. I just need a little bit of hand
I'm
here.
just a little guy
help me.
here.
Just help me. It was really interesting. So I think we were originally there for your friend's farewell, and so we were friends with her mother, and my wife knew her really well through the church that we went to at that time. And honestly, like, I was not even interested in hiring anybody. I just wanted to go and visit my family, visit some friends, and just kind of hang out and enjoy the trip. And this is something that's really interesting. You can call it spirituality, you can call it God, we can call it the spirit, whatever, the universe. Something told me I need to ask this guy to, like, come out for the summer and install security systems, because he seems like a really cool dude. We had mutual friends, and I was just like, well, I guess I'm just going to ask and see what happens. And so I did, and luckily he said yes. And we worked, 3 years together?
Something like that.
3 years?
I think we worked 2 summers together, which doesn't feel like a lot, but
then we kind of had that janky summer that didn't really happen, and then we ended up in Maryland, which is kind of
Well, I wouldn't. No, I would call it
I would call it yeah. That was a rough summer.
I will say though, like, where did we started out in Indianapolis,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't remember the town what it was called that we lived in.
I don't remember.
Green something. It'll come to us at some point.
Probably.
So we were living in Indianapolis at the time, and we were even though work was, like, kind of questionable at that time, but at the same time, like, the relationships that we had, like, as a team with everybody that we were working with was so, like, genuine and honest and real. Like,
and it was fun.
Yeah, it really was.
Like, I don't think I've ever had that good of a relationship with. I mean, I think we did okay when we went to Texas that one summer.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that one went pretty well, but I think the one in Indiana was, like, so much better. If they had just been able to get the sales in, I think that would have just been such a stellar summer.
See, I never felt like I had to question any of the reps that we were working with at the time. Like, I think it didn't feel like it was 2 teams working on, like, different sides. It felt like we were one team, and it felt like everybody was like, okay, we're on the same page, like, we're on the same side here.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, like, with, like, a lot of the times like, this just sucks to say, but, like, it is what it is. Like, there's always, like, the sales reps and then the technicians on 2 different sides.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like I didn't really feel like I butted heads with anybody.
Mm-mm.
And if we did, it was, like, for a good reason, and we were able to problem solve.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, we were always able to resolve the issues, which was really good. And they're able to be resolved very quickly, too. And I think what really helped while we were doing that is not only was there communication with me and the sales managers, but it was also really good communication with the tech and the rep that were having the issue.
Yeah.
And we were just able to, like, work it out, and that can be a really beautiful thing. Unfortunately, out of the 5 years we did it, I think we had 2 teams that were decent, The other ones were very rough to work with.
What would you say about DC's team though when we were in the Maryland area? Because I feel like the work there was like I was constantly busy.
It was
like,
very constant.
I was constantly like at a job or grabbing a quick lunch for like 15 minutes and then on my way to the next job.
Yep.
Like I felt very busy out there. Those were like some of the fattest paychecks I ever had when working with Vivint. But what were your thoughts though in working with that team? 'Cause
well, on the managerial side, it kind of sucked because, the guy that was originally running the team decided he didn't want to do it anymore because they were struggling to communicate and to kind of work with the team, and just like have meetings and stuff like that. And so I was approached by, the higher up. I was about to say district manager, but that's not correct. I've been out of it so long.
I remember who you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm not gonna mention any names, but they basically begged, they were basically begging me, like, can you just take over and just start managing? And my first question was, well, how am I going to be compensated? And they were like, well, you're already getting your salary. I'm like, well, that's great, but now I'm managing a much larger team that I haven't managed before. I think at that time it was like 16 or 18 techs, something like that, which is that's a pretty monster team. I'm not going to lie. And I think eventually we had like over 20 at some point, but I was like, can we split the overrides? Can we do something like that? And they're like, no, we just need your help and you just need to do it. And I was just like, whatever. And so, but there was a lot of stories like that over the years where it's just like, we just need your help. We just need you to do it. And I'm like, well, how am I going to get compensated? Well, you just need to do it. That was kind of the attitude. Yeah. But there was a lot of other things happening in the background. So anyways, I jumped in. I got things back on track. I was having several meetings with the sales managers. I was communicating with them almost daily. And I'm like, hey, if you guys have anything go wrong on an install, send me pictures, call me, text me, do whatever you need to do to let me know what's going on so I can talk to my guys and make sure. Well, I call everybody my guys. I think there was only like maybe 3 or 4 from our original team that were actually on that team.
I think when we went to
Something
DC,
like
it was you, me, and one other person that came with us.
Yeah.
I remember specifically because you had your own room and then I was sharing a room with him. Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite interesting. I mean, it was good. The paychecks were okay, but I basically had to stop taking as many installs because I had to manage, which kind of sucked. So, I mean, my paychecks could have been bigger, but, instead of doing, 3 to 5 jobs a day, I was doing maybe 1 or 2 because I was just on the phone constantly. Like I just couldn't do like them. And I tried not to give myself more than like a basic and maybe a couple of cameras. Like it was ridiculous. And it worked out. I mean, I was hoping that I would work with that team the next year, and then they just kind of ghosted me, so it kind of didn't work out, unfortunately. And did you hear? I think this was after. It might have been. I don't know if it was during or after you went home. Yeah, you went home early because you had school.
Yeah,
that's right. So it was just me and our other buddy, and that was what was left from our team. And basically, we got some more technicians, and we basically got one technician, which we really struggled with because he was constantly against, like, just doing a good job and just do your job. And he was always like, well, this is, I'm going to do whatever I want. This is my install. If I want to reschedule it, I'll reschedule it. If I want to not do it, I just won't do it.
I'll just cancel it. He was managing himself.
Yeah,
I'm like, have anyone to answer to.
I'm like, well, okay, great, but he was basically, like even early, like 7 or 8 o'clock. He's like getting on a job, and all of a sudden it reschedules. And it's just like, well, what happened to that one? Oh, the customer said it was too late. I'm like, okay, great. Well, when are you doing it? Or did it get back in the schedule? Get it back in the queue? No, that's my install. Okay, all right. When are you doing it? I'm doing it on Sunday. Okay, great. I get calls on Sunday. Hey, my tech didn't show up. And that happened 3 different occasions, like in a row. So I wrote this guy up several times. I'm like, you're not doing your job. Like you're canceling stuff. You're not taking care of your customers. You know, you're causing issues with our relations with the representatives. I'm like, well, I don't know what you're doing, but this is not working. And I basically told the higher ups, I'm like, we just need to get rid of this guy, put him on a different team or something. Not like, you know, fire him, but like put him on a different team. He's not working with the team right now. And basically it just told me, just deal with it. We just need him.
He said that?
Yeah. They're just like, we're just going to deal with it. We need him to install, and he's installing systems. So we're just going to let him do it. I'm just like, okay, whatever. And then later on, he was roommates that previous summer with the guy, our buddy, and another guy that we were rooming with. We got like an Airbnb later, instead of an apartment towards the end. And basically what happened was he was trying to convince our roommate to basically tell corporate that I was discriminating against him because he was black. Which was very strange because we had, you know, a total of 3 black guys. We had several Latino guys, and then the rest of the team was white. We didn't have any issues with anybody else. It was just this one person, like during our meetings, was like very belligerent and very open. Like, I am not doing that. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, dude. And you know how I manage. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm very fair, and I'm also very open to feedback. And yeah, it was a really bad situation. I mean, I'm very glad that my roommate at least told me about it, and I'm like, hey, I'm really grateful that you were honest with me, and I thank you so much for not lying and getting me in trouble for something that was not happening. Like, it would just be a complete fabrication. Probably would have lost my job. And I'm just, you know, I was glad that it didn't happen. But anyway, there's a lot of drama in that team. A lot of drama.
Yeah, I remember like very early on working with that team. It was like, I don't know, man. I just work here. I'm answering the texts that I got. I'm going to the places where I'm being told to go. And then I'm looking at like everybody else, and it was like, wow, it just does not feel like there's any structure on this team whatsoever.
No,
like,
it wasn't. It was serious free for all, kind of like, you know, everybody's being a cowboy, like just do whatever you got to do to get in the house and get a system sold. And what sucked is, I mean, it was good that, you know, we didn't get a ton of cancels, but there were enough where it was really annoying. It's like you would install and like 3 days later pull a system, especially like a big system.
That irks me so much too. It's just like, seriously? Okay, whatever. I
had the sales manager, and actually he was not an official sales manager. He just called himself the sales manager. But we just kind of had to deal with it because that was his personality. And the real sales manager was just like, this is just him. I'm like, okay, whatever. And he got into a house and sold the customer system under the guise that they could link the system with their solar, which was not a feature at that time. And they were using that tactic to get into homes and to sell a system and then just hope that they would not get that 3rd day cancellation. And I brought that up to my higher ups. I even brought it up to the VP, and they were just like, well, we'll send it to the sales regionals. And I'm just like, nothing's going to happen. They basically said, hey guys, you need to stop doing that. And that's all they got. And these were guys that were fired years prior, I found out, for doing shady stuff.
They got fired for years prior and then rehired?
Mm-hmm.
That blows my mind.
Yeah, it blew my mind too when I found out about it. And I was like, well, this is going to be one of those. Okay. I guess we'll just deal like we always do.
So, and it's funny too. So here in this town, we have one of the call centers for this company, right?
Yeah.
And I've had the chance to meet a lot of the like phone representatives that work with this company. And I didn't learn until after that summer that there is actually a department in the call center to deal with customers who have been lied to by their sales reps. I had no idea that was a thing. Like, this company literally has a department in the call center that deals with sales reps who are supposed to sell the system,
or at least convince the customer to keep it within their home,
like we have
before they get out of their ROR.
Like this, there's a department that deals with wires within the company. It's like, okay, contradictory at its finest.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I mean, and I don't blame the company per se. I definitely would put that on the buck on the shoulders of the leadership that just continue to keep those people, or bring those people back. And I get it. You know, it's a multi-billion-dollar company. You know, they want to push sales. They want to get, you know, they want to year over year increase their revenue. Like, I get it. I understand it. But there's also a way to do things that are ethical. Mm-hmm. And then that's a whole nother podcast, ethics.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
and these are also people that are, you know, members of like Christian faith and like believing in God and like, you know, the ways of Jesus's life, that profess that and go to church. And it was just like really interesting seeing that, and seeing people that are, in my opinion, being very deplorable.
Yeah, it's like you're selling one thing, but like, hold up. I thought there was a whole nother background that you're supposed to represent 24/7.
Yeah.
How is what you're doing right now?
What would Jesus do in this situation?
What would Jesus do? That's what. So I have a license. I don't know if you've seen it. I have my license plate cover. When I got to Utah, I was like, okay, this is a very like Christian faith heavy community. Mm-hmm. I think that this is kind of funny. So I got like one of those license plate covers that just says, "Do you follow Jesus as close?" So now whenever I'm hanging out with somebody and they're getting in my car, it's just like, I can't believe your license plate cover says that. I'm like,
oh,
I hope it sends a message.
There are some people that drive a little bit crazy, especially for such a slow moving, like South Utah, like rural area. It's very surprising to me that there's some people here that drive like they're in the city.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I've lived in Nevada, lived in California, lived in Utah, Texas, Indianapolis, DC, like out of everywhere. I think, I'm sorry, I'm not profiling or anything, just speaking from experience. Utah drivers are probably the worst drivers that I've had to deal with so far. Like, just.
I disagree. Like, they're
really?
Pretty bad. I honestly think people in Phoenix are worse, maybe by a little bit. But definitely the worst in my experience, especially being, you know, cross country so many times.
Okay.
Maryland was really bad. I was terrified to drive in Maryland. Like, people would just like jump out, like, when it would be less reasonable. Like, not only would I have to slow down, but sometimes slam on my brakes because people just kind of jump out in front of you. And that would happen daily. Like, I would almost get into accidents at least 2 to 3 times a day.
Yeah, so I don't have enough driving experience. That I think that's me.
Oh, that's you? Okay. I just heard buzzing. I'm like, is that my wife?
Put that down there. So
it's okay.
I don't have enough experience in Phoenix. Like, I've spent time in the Arizona area, but I don't think I've spent enough time to drive in Phoenix to know. Maryland, actually, yeah, Maryland. I remember, because do you remember the first day, like, because I had to stay back in Indianapolis to do the
the holdover tickets.
Yeah, I think I did like 2
that
entire week.
I was so angry that
I even
that
went
they
on
forced you to stay there.
I had enough time to go on a date when I was in Indianapolis.
That's impressive. So, you got yourself a date within a week. That's pretty that's pretty baller, dude. I'm not gonna lie. That's pretty good.
Yeah, so it's that look. So what was I saying? Oh yeah, so I had to stay back in Indianapolis for that week. And then I remember that day that I was going into Washington D.C., the day that I got there, I pulled off the freeway and I saw you guys, and I was like freaking out a little bit because as I was pulling off on the freeway, I almost got in a car accident. So little story time. So what was going on was like, I was in the second lane from the right, and the exit's coming up, so I'm like, okay, time to start merging into this next lane.
Mm-hmm.
As I'm like merging over, this car, I just see him in my rear view mirror just speeding down the freeway. So I'm like, oh shoot, okay, just jump back in my lane. But by the time I jump back in my lane, he's so close that he has to adjust himself, and like he comes back and he's like following me again, and he just loses complete control, and he's swerving on the road, and he goes across the freeway, like into the other side. Oh my
gosh.
Do you remember me telling you this story?
I do remember you telling me this story. So, that was so sketchy.
Yeah, so he flies over, and I'm just like, I'm like freaking out so much. I'm like pulling off the freeway. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, did I just cause an accident? Literally the second that I pulled into DC.
Yeah.
Like, I was just freaking out so much. And it was like one of those things where it's just like, how are the next few weeks going to go? It was just one of those, like,
what did I get myself into?
I overthink so much. So I was like, this is one of those moments where I was just like, crap, what am I doing here, man? Like, just like all the bad feelings of like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe I shouldn't be here. I'm sure that I think we all felt that when we first got there.
It's like I pulled into town, and I was just like, this is not it, yo. Like, get me out of here. But,
okay, I have some questions for you.
Some answers.
So kind of the theme of this podcast, we're going to try to talk a little bit about, religion and spirituality and belief and faith. And then we're going to just kind of go from there. But now that, we kind of talked a little bit about how we know each other, we've known each other for a while. I guess what religious background did you grow up with?
So I grew up, it's interesting because I'm not from Utah, but
you're from California.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in the LDS faith. So that was like most of the knowledge that was, more common in my family and just in the community that I was raised in.
Okay.
I think throughout high school and throughout college, I've had the privilege to get to know several other different beliefs. Not super well. Like, I kind of feel like I know that. Actually, not really anymore. But like, I still feel like even now in my early 20s, I still know the LDS faith like the back of my hand.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I actually kind of don't. It's funny because I went to church a couple of weeks ago because someone who I love dearly spoke in church.
Oh, okay.
So
that's cool.
So yeah, I got to sit down and listen for a little bit, and I was looking around like, this feels weird. I haven't been to church in so long.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was born and raised in the LDS faith. And yeah. So
okay.
A lot more Christian belief. And I believe you were too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so.
Yep. So I was born. My mother is a convert. My father born and raised. Kind of like that whole prodigy of like it kind of being throughout the family. Yep. I was pretty active like all through my younger years. I actually went on a mission.
Remember where you served?
West Virginia.
That's right. Yeah.
But I think I served probably the majority of it in Virginia, at least the longest stints.
West Virginia.
I liked Virginia. It was very pretty. I would love to go back there just to kind of cruise through all the different places I was in. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was fun. Like I went through the whole the youth, like at 12, 14, and 16. So I was a deacon, teacher, and priest. I had the Aaronic priesthood. When I was getting ready to go on my mission, got the Melchizedek priesthood, went through the temple, the whole 9 yards. After I got home, eventually found my wife, and we got married in the St. George Temple. So, I mean, I've gone through pretty much everything you can do, unless you're going to be like a part of the authorities and the higher ups and the leadership of the church.
Right.
I guess, what were your thoughts when you were younger growing up in the church, like about the faith? Like, did you have issues with the actual doctrine? Did you have issues with the stories that were told? What were you like when you were younger, and what was your relationship with it?
So when I was a kid, my relationship with the church was great. I think that mostly has to do with like the leadership and the like so the primary, like the where like you would go as a kid.
Oh, I miss primary. Primary was fun.
Yeah.
All you did was do activities and sing.
Yeah, exactly.
I miss
like
that.
that's what I love so much about it. And it's like I had great teachers. I had amazing influences. My best friend, who is now getting married in the Payson Temple.
Oh, okay, cool.
Like he and I were in the same classes together all throughout our years growing up. So I had like amazing influences all around me at all times. It was wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
I think honestly I didn't really like going to church as a kid, but like I was always just so willing to engage because of my relationships with
the people.
Community. Yeah, exactly. With the community.
Oh yeah, the community, the culture is very close knit, and so you like everybody knows everybody. Like like everybody knows if you're having a good day or a bad day. Like it's like, yeah, it's very close.
Yeah. So yeah, as a kid growing up, like it was like being part of Boy Scouts. I actually
Boy Scouts was baller. I loved Boy Scouts.
I think there were days where I just definitely didn't like it, just because. But I mean, like I was saying, my relationships and like the leadership that we had was just so tight knit and like very loving and supportive. It was just a great community to be a part of. And being active in like stuff like Boy Scouts, like it was just something fun to do. Like I'm a very outdoorsy person, so if you're telling me that I gotta go camping, like heck yeah, I'm gonna go camping. Like that's awesome.
Do a couple activities and I have a merit badge. Cool.
You're telling me I get to shoot guns and I get a reward for it. I get to shoot some bows and arrows and throw tomahawks. Like yeah, I'm gonna want to do that. Horseback riding, down. Like there was some fun stuff to do with that. I think the thing that I hated most about that part was just the paperwork, but.
Yeah, I mean, it was tedious for young kids, honestly.
Yeah. But like honestly being a part of that community growing up, I feel like was very there were some very good things about it that helped me in my childhood. There were also some things where I was just like now that I'm older and think more about now, it's like I don't know. But I mean, I wouldn't say that I would change anything about it, because like that's where a lot of my experiences where I grew as a person kind of came from. So I mean, was most of your friends within that community as well? Yeah, that's honestly like that's how I made a lot of my friends growing up, is just because like you have that community you're a part of, and it's even if you move somewhere, you already have a group of people that are willing to take you in. So I was born and raised in Reno, Nevada, right? And then moved to California when I was about 12, which is that's a weird age to move around, is because it's like I'm coming out of elementary school and starting middle school, so there's that weird awkward transition. Yeah, where it's like, okay, you don't know what's gonna happen, because like you're always getting beat up and picked on like in the grade school, and then you go to high school and you're like, what is going on right now? This is so different. The thing is, like, middle school, those are like your awkward years. Oh god. And it's like you're starting a new school and a new community in your awkward years. Yeah. It's just like this is weird, and I hated that. But when I did move, it was like I had that community to fall back on. Yeah, so, for sure. Yeah, like that was really nice, because becoming part of that that's where we were introduced to the beach. Like we had this thing in the church where like in our community in the church where we would go to the beach every Tuesday during the summer. So like that was super fun. Yeah. Like go to the ocean, go like skimboarding, go to surf shops, go longboarding. Like it was wonderful and I loved it. But that's awesome. Yeah. I think I had similar things within the LDS culture, and I think as a young man, growing up within that, I struggled for some strange reason having friends within the church, basically. Like my close friends were all were outside, actually. They were like Lutheran. I think one was Baptist, and I think a couple of them didn't really identify, any kind of, religious background or belief.
But we really palled together. Mostly it was like music and Magic the Gathering and Pokemon. Those are the biggest things that kind of drew us together. And video games, such as like EverQuest. What was the other one? World of Warcraft. I think I actually kind of got into it more once, I
Club
started
Penguin?
playing. No what? Club Penguin? What is that? Is this something a boomer shouldn't know? Or
no? It's like one of those little kid video game communities, almost kind of like RuneScape, but for like little kids.
Oh, RuneScape! I didn't get into RuneScape.
I got into that like a little bit when I was in middle school, and very briefly. But anyways, go on.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, I really struggled to make friends that were members of the church because, like, I just kind of felt like we were all very different. I think the majority of the kids, that I grew up with were, the more popular kids. Like, one actually became buddies with, later on, and we started a band together. He was actually one of the more popular kids. Like, so we just really, we just never really got into, being friends or anything like that. And I don't think it was because like we chose to. I think it's just, we just kind of just didn't end up friends for whatever.
Was it always reason. Like that? Like even when you were a little kid?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I struggled to identify friends within the church for some strange reason. But I think when I started getting into my teens, I started kind of having my own personal doubts. I mean, I started kind of seeing holes in the stories. I started kind of seeing a lot of contradictions within the scriptures. All the scriptures that the LDS church has. And it was just really strange for me. I mean, I ended up doing most of it, I feel like out of duty. Like I really wanted to please my parents, and I wanted to make sure, like I'm very passive. Like I don't want to rock the boat. I'm trying to kind of come out of that shell a bit more. But I think the thing that decided for me to go on mission is I was just like praying and reading my scriptures and praying. And I'm just like, I just need to know like that this is true enough so I can go. And so I had a very great experience. The LDS members will say that when you feel the Spirit at its most heightened feeling, you'll feel that burning in the bosom that talks about. And I had that when I prayed about going on a mission and about Joseph Smith, and I felt really good about it, like really good about it. It was a very intense experience. But as time went on and I went on my mission and I started to work with these other, young individuals, being trained and really diving into the belief systems and the commandments, like the dogma, basically, I was just like, this is kind of confusing. I did my best. I still went out. I taught people, even though I had my own personal doubts. Like we would go and visit other people and find that they're super happy and really love their religious beliefs and their beliefs in God and Jesus. And I even went to several different churches while I was on my mission, which I didn't experience before I left with my other friends, which I really feel like I should have, because I think it would have really got me more objective on where other people are at. Because within the LDS church, you're so close-knit and the community and the culture is so tight-knit, you really are, seeing the world through, rose-tinted glasses. You're not really seeing the world as it is. You're seeing the world as you wish it to be, or what has the information that you've been given through this time. And so I kind of doubted when, into my teens, but out of duty and the experience I had, at the time I was like, this feels like the right thing to do. I'm going to do this. And then subsequently when I came home, in and out, like kind of struggling to really, understand my relationship with it. And eventually, I think the nail in the coffin for me, well, I don't want to say coffin. That sounds pretty dark and dreary.
No, but it's an appropriate way to word it.
Yeah, I think it was about 3 or so years ago. My wife and we decided to go through this training called Impact Training, and it's a group of individuals, like, sired around this one individual that created this program where you go through a very intense few days, very, for long periods of time, and you do these different activities, and like you kind of do all these things to kind of bring out like you, like yourself away from everything else that the world is kind of like the programs and, the information that you were instilled since you were young. It kind of broke through a lot of that, and you're starting to kind of realize, okay, well, who really am I? After going through that and the experiences I had with that, recalling the stuff of the different places I went, different churches, and finding, those strong, good feelings with other people, other religions, other cultures, it made me wonder, okay, well, if I'm feeling these same feelings when I'm with other people and other places and other religions, like, well, then who's really right, kind of a deal. And so I started kind of questioning my personal faith within the LDS church. That was the kind of thing that kind of got me on that path of doubt and just kind of figuring out like, oh, something's not right here. And while I was in this process of trying to find myself and trying to, and I still talk to God today. Like, it's not like I don't believe. I like to think of myself as agnostic theist. So I still believe in God, but I can't prove or disprove that he exists or what form he takes, or maybe it's just clouds in the universe, or maybe it is a man in a white robe with white hair. I don't know. I think that's the best position for me to be in right now, is I'm not sure. So I'm just going to kind of do, go along through life and continue to learn and grow, and, whatever happens, happens. But when I was going online and kind of researching some stuff, and I'll be honest, like I looked at a lot of like anti-Mormon material, but that didn't really faze me. I was just kind of like, these people are just angry for the most part. But some of it, I mean, I don't know if you ever read the CES letter, which is basically a member that basically did something similar to Martin Luther, what he did with the Catholic Church. He basically said, well, these are the issues that I have, help me understand them. And of course they labeled him a heretic, tried to kill him, and he went off to work on the Bible and stuff. But anyway,
it's always those stories that they shut down and bury. We don't talk about that here.
No.
Well, we're going to talk about it here.
Yeah. And so when I was on that path of just kind of learning and understanding and like consuming different information from different sources, I came upon this website. I think the website has changed now. It's not, it used to be like Mormon Leaks, or like kind of like the WikiLeaks, but for Mormonism. Leaks? Yeah, it was kind of like one of those sites, but it actually transitioned to like somethinntruth.org. I'd have to like go and look at it again. But anyways, I was looking at the site, and again, it's just like, okay, well, some of this is just like really anti, and just like people are angry at the church. Like, I get it. But the thing, like I said, the nail in the coffin for me was that if the things were said to me and professed that this is the only true church, like on the face of the earth, and everybody else is wrong, everybody else does not know anything about God or Jesus or, things about life, then why are there allegations against the church with sexual abuse, rape, like really dark things like that? And I was listening to this podcast. I think it was somebody from Europe having a conversation with the lawyer that basically focused pretty much like his whole career on battling these different allegations like against the church and saying, hey, you need to recognize that something bad happened here. And the unfortunate thing is that the LDS church is very powerful. They have multi-billions of dollars that they can fight these things. Whether they can keep individuals in litigation until they run out of money, or they eventually take a payoff, they sign an NDA, and then it goes away. So for me, when I've been told my whole life, and what I believed was the only truth on this in this world, and to see that,
I want to come back to that whole thing.
Yeah, and then I'll just say one other story, and then I'll let you jump in. So my mother's been divorced and remarried a few times, and her second husband was not the greatest guy in the world. And I still love and care about him. I called him my dad. Unfortunately, he's not in our lives. Well, fortunately, he's not in our lives anymore. Honestly, he was very verbal and very emotionally abusive to me and my family. But if I was going to see him today, obviously I would forgive him. I'd give him a hug and say, hey, how's things going? But there was some issues that happened, which I don't know the full scope of the situation. But basically there was an allegation against him. It didn't happen in any lawful manner, but it was between individuals. And basically there was somebody who was accusing him of touching a boy inappropriately. Now he was a very affectionate person. We tickled, we wrestled, very handsy, but not to us kids as far as I know. Definitely wasn't to me. And then basically my uncle did what he could to make it go away. And
your uncle,
that was the end of it.
As in his brother, or
no. This was my uncle on my mom's side.
Okay.
He was married to my mom's sister. And he made it go away. And I remember asking a couple of times about it, but I never really got to the bottom of it. And that's another thing too. If there's somebody who has this power, according to the church, the Melchizedek priesthood is the highest power you can hold on this earth, and you're wielding it in the name of God and Jesus. If those allegations were true and something did happen, well, is it? But anyway, I digress. There's a number of things that happened, but the biggest thing for me was those allegations that were happening against the church. There was an actual lawyer that was prosecuting the church for it, and there was actually papers, the paper trail of it. And so when I saw that, I was like, that's proof to me there's something shady going on in the background. And I think there is some things going on behind closed doors that people just aren't talking about because they believe so much that those people in power are being led by Christ or God. And so that was the biggest thing for me. And I was like, I can't believe this anymore. And after reading the CS letter, I'm like, okay, those are some pretty good questions, but yeah, that kind of led me on my road to disbelief with not only the LDS church, but also in religion in general, because when you actually get into the historical parts of it, there's a lot of man-made things involved with it. And unfortunately, the power seems to always get abused. And we see that a lot with these different cults and stuff like that. I don't consider religions a cult, but there are some cultish things happening. But I'm going to go ahead and give it over to you.
Okay, well, with that, I'm going to come back to that. So you can say that the Mormon Church is not a cult. This is just my opinion.
Yeah, we're thoughts and feelings and opinions here, people. I was going
to say, my thoughts, I do think that it is a cult. Now, when I say that, I'm just imagining everybody being like, oh, what? No, you're wrong. Here's the thing. The word cult has a very negative connotation.
Mm-hmm.
That does... It's not necessarily bad. It's not necessarily good. It's just...
It's an organization following one individual or person.
See, that's the thing. The LDS faith falls under a lot of the characteristics. The LDS faith follows a man who claims to have direct contact with the higher power.
Mm-hmm.
And that's who the whole community is following and saying, this is who we're...
Yeah, well, they believe that the people that are in the authority of the church, like the prophet and counselors and 12 apostles, are in direct contact, not direct contact like face-to-face with Jesus, but they believe that Jesus is guiding them through the Spirit.
Exactly. So, but it's still that following of that one person.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in... I don't want to say in office because that just doesn't sound right, but I don't know how else to term it exactly. So, but they're under that leadership until the day that they die, right?
Right.
Also,
I always forget to start that. I'm just gonna close that. It's bugging me.
Also, this community has thousands of castles. Let's be real, they're castles, temples.
They're very beautiful. Like, they really are.
They are. They really are. I remember like the drive going down from my hometown to San Diego. Like you see, like that's one of the first things that you see on the freeway, and it was a sight to look at.
Mm-hmm.
But they are buildings that when you go inside of, there are things going on in the background where like things that you talk about that once you come out, like you can't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And personally, I never went through that, so I really don't know. I don't have like you probably have
Well,
more information on that than I do. But
yeah. I mean, there's some things you can talk about, and there's some things that they ask you not to.
right.
This is true.
Which, like, I know, as harmless as it may be, it's just one of those things that it just seems shady, you know?
It does. It really is.
Also, primary songs and primary in general, like how I was mentioning earlier, like my childhood within the church was great. It was wonderful because of the relationships that we had.
Mm-hmm.
Primary songs are also a form of brainwashing. Like
yeah, it's definitely indoctrination for sure.
One of those things that just drills into they drill it into your brain, like as a kid.
Follow the prophet.
Follow the prophet. Keep the commandments.
Mm-hmm.
Just all these little sayings that you're supposed to memorize.
Mm-hmm.
Like even in seminary, when you're a teenager in the classes, like you have to memorize scripture.
Yep.
Like,
articles of faith. Yeah, all of it. Mm-hmm.
Like you're asked to memorize it. Like I'm gonna be honest. Even when I was sitting in school, like I could say that in my head. Like I could say a lot of those scriptures just in my head.
Yeah.
Like just and like I said, the word cult has a negative connotation. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Like
yeah,
like
it's technically a more objective like look at some organizations.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not really meant to be in a negative context, but when we as human beings put a negative context on a word, then it seems to continue to perpetuate it as a negative thing, which is unfortunate.
It's negative when when you're trying to leave and you're murdered for it. Like that's when it's bad.
Yeah.
But I shouldn't laugh. I think for me, my experience in like coming out of it was like, it was really when I hit my teenage years, because it was like that's when I started developing a lot more deep, meaningful relationships outside of the church.
Mm-hmm. And you're like, whoa, why am I having these meaningful, deep relationships outside of the church? This is so strange.
See, like, not that I didn't before, because like one of my other like closest friends that I ever had, and I still view him as like one of my best friends, but like growing up, he wasn't LDS, but just because of like his personality and like the kind of guy he was just someone that I was more attracted to as a friend. But like in my teenage years, like building those more deep, meaningful relationships with people outside of the community, was one of those. It was one of those things where it was like, okay, I think I'm missing something here. So I think there were just a lot of little moments where it was like, okay, time to start questioning it. And just all throughout high school, it was like 1 year could be different from 1 month could be different from the next. Like 1 month I would enjoy every little thing about being in the church, and then the next it would be like
drudgery.
I don't think I want that. So like, yeah. And then eventually, like, I kind of got to a point, like, at 18, that's when I was like, okay, well, this is about the age that I need to start getting ready for a mission. And I almost went too. Like 19, I hit 19, started working on my papers, and yeah. So, but like, I had a moment where it was just like, okay, this really isn't it. And I had a conversation with like my bishop at the time. And it was one of those moments where like I explained to him something that I did, and I thought like in my head, oh, he's going to be so disappointed. But because the bishop that I had at the time was such a wonderful and supportive person, he was like, I'm just so glad that you told me. And that was like a really great moment where I was just crying, because I was like, I never knew that I would get support for making a mistake and just being honest about it. But like as time went on, it was like I am now realizing, or not realizing, I am now like coming to terms with the fact that if I'm going on a mission, I'm not going on a mission for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going on a mission for my parents. Don't get me wrong, like I love my parents so much, like would do anything, but ultimately,
well,
like,
they raised you and you're an amazing person, so I know they're awesome people.
So it was
yeah.
like I love my parents, but if I did this, I would be doing it for them. And if I'm going to make any big decision in my life, I want it to be for the right reason, and I don't want it to be for anybody else. I want it to be for me.
Yeah.
And this is not a decision that I'm making for them. This is for me. This is a decision I'm making for them. So eventually time went on, and it was just like, saying it. And then throughout the years, like in like 18, 19, 20, it was like it was still like on and off again.
Yeah.
And then eventually I started going back to church. I went to a YSA, or young single adult.
Mm-hmm. I struggle with YSA.
See, so like I went there, and it was like everything that I had grown up with in the church, with like super tight relationships, very like loving and supportive community. Like as I was there, it
wasn't there anymore.
It wasn't there.
Yeah.
That
was my experience too.
It was one of those times where it was like, I feel more alone being here than I feel alone being by myself.
Yeah.
And during this time, like I was playing some music and like being heavily involved in like this musical community, going to concerts on weekends and like local venues and just hanging out and all that. That's kind of what I was associated with.
Mm-hmm.
And this was my nail in the coffin. Yes, I'm going to say that with confidence. So I went to church this one Sunday, showed up, sat down, went through the meeting, and there was a guy that was sitting a few rows in front of me. We didn't know each other very well, but we had a couple of conversations together. I had seen him at like one of these venues,
mm-hmm.
And I could tell when I saw him there that he just was not having a good time.
Oh.
So I'm sitting there in church, and he keeps on glancing back at me, and I'm just like, does he want to talk? Like, why is he looking at me? It's just like an uncomfortable amount, right? Like
of eye contact. You're like,
it's one of those things where it's like, I don't mind if like you're looking back at me, but like the amount that you're just looking back and like trying to make or like just making eye contact with me, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, especially several different times.
Yeah, it's like, okay, like this is kind of weird.
That's strange.
Anyways, the meeting ends, I walk out, and then like, cause I never went to any of the like second or third hour when they were still doing 3 hours.
Yeah.
3 hours, oh my goodness. It's, when you think about it now, it's crazy. But
yeah.
Anyways,
there's quite a bit of time for sure.
Yeah. So I walk out, and right as I'm like starting to walk out the front door, I hear my name, and I turn around, and it's this guy, and I'm just like, okay, what's up? So, and all he says to me is just, you don't belong here. And yeah, straight up.
Are you kidding me right now?
No. It was one of those things where I didn't like, I don't know what his intentions were. I don't know him very well at all as a person. Like, I never really associated with him. Like I said, I only ever had like a couple of conversations with him beforehand,
mm-hmm.
and seen him outside of church at that one place. And like that was just what he said to me, and I was like, kind of sat there for a moment. I was like, I don't know if you're trying to say this to me to be helpful, or if your intentions are to hurt me enough to make me not want to come back here again. But like when he said that to me, like that was a moment that I didn't take that as offense. I took it as like constructive. Out in my head, I was like, F you. But
maybe you're right.
No, what came out was like, you know what? You're right. Like I really don't belong here. Like I just said, like, you're right. I don't belong here. Thanks for letting me know, and for saying that out loud. I walked out, and I have never gone to church alone since.
Yeah.
Now when I go to church, it's to support someone else.
Yeah.
But if someone very close to me is having a mission farewell or homecoming, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
If a family member is speaking, I'm going to go. Like, out of support for them because I love them and for the relationship that I have with them. Would I ever go back for me? Honestly, probably not. The last time I went to a YSA ward, which actually was this year, I went because I had a friend that was going on her farewell.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in support of her, and the entire time that I was there, I was like, I hate this. Like, I'm
sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but
like, I'm sorry, but no, please laugh. I'm sorry, but like, it was it was just one of those things where it was like, yeah, no, I think I'm good.
yeah.
I think my brain has matured enough at this point to know that this is not where I belong, and this is not like the community that I should be a part of.
Wow.
So it's like,
thank you for sharing that. That's I honestly I want to cry because that's pretty messed up what he said. But your experience is not what's the word? It's not unique in the sense that you're not the only one that's had experiences like that.
See, I also know that, but I also, like, when I tell that story to members of the LDS faith, like, they're just as surprised as you are to hear that. They're like, wow, I didn't know. Like, that's...
Actually, I'm not surprised.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I mean...
Because, well, I mean, in my experience after I got home from my mission... Well, I mean, I did start to feel and see some of the judgmental sentiment that people were having, like, because I went a bit later to go on my mission. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think school was out about, I think April or May, and then I didn't go on my mission until like November.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So like, and it wasn't about, you know, me turning 19 because I turned 19 at that time at the end of May. But people were like, well, why isn't Jacob on a mission? When is he going? And everybody was talking about it. Everybody was talking to me about it. They're just like, hey, so how's it going? You putting in your papers? And I'm just like, not yet. Oh, you should get on that. And so that's when I was like, this is starting to be really strange. It's like, because I really felt that was something that I should decide I should do, you know? And I told that to my parents. I was like, this is something I need to decide to do. And so like, well, you need to pray about it. And you need to get a confirmation that Joseph Smith is a prophet. You need to get confirmation. You know, this is something you should do, and you should pray about it. And of course, I prayed about it, and I prayed so hard. I mean, I might have convinced myself to it. I don't know, but I did have quite an interesting experience when I did. In fact, I went crying to my mom, you know, telling her about my experience. But when I was having the other experiences like that outside of religion, outside of like some faith, I was like, this is very strange. You know, but like, yeah, actually there's a lot of members that like either end up getting pushed out, or there's rumors, or, you know, people just being very judgy, I think is what my wife and I call it. But you have something to say. I'm going to let you say it.
Yeah. Okay. So I had the privilege to actually attend a meeting where, like, this was a time when I went to support someone I loved. But when I went to this meeting, and I had met this bishop that was speaking at the time, and I actually really admire this man just for the person that he is. So one of the things that he said, not as a talk, but like in an announcement to the ward, was like, judgment, like the time of judgment by members needs to end. Like, he just said it straight to everybody. And like, as someone who was pushed out, or I don't want to say pushed out because I left.
But you definitely felt judged for sure.
Right. So it was one of those things where it was like, thank you for saying that. Like, because every single time that I go to church now, and like was going then, like you can feel the judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it's just one of those times, one of those moments where it was like, I'm so glad that he said it. Because
yeah,
like the time of judgment by members needs to come to an end. and just told everybody there are good members of this faith that are leaving because they don't feel accepted by the community that they have chosen to be a part of. And it was like
not to mention anybody else that would be from different like lines of thinking that want to be a part of it. Could you imagine if anybody was gay or lesbian or any of the LGBTQ community wanted to be a member of the church?
Exactly. So it's
Whoa.
like,
anyway,
it's like,
I digress.
Yeah, but it was just one of those things where it was like, you tell them, like.
But that's good. That's awesome. They need like that needed probably to be said in that particular ward
and like
or stake.
As amazing as that was to hear, at the same time, like
it didn't amount to anything.
There's just no dent that was made. Like even like now, like the last time I went to church was that YSA award. Like even going there, it was like I just feel so judged. Like. I really do. I just don't feel accepted. I don't feel like I'm wanted here, and that makes me not want to be here. So,
like, I mean, that makes sense for sure. So I'm going to tell you a couple of instances where I started to feel the judgment.
Please.
And then we can start talking a little bit more about spirituality. I can't feel like we're ripping on our previous religious beliefs and.
Which I don't mean to do. I'm just.
Yeah, I mean, but we're just sharing our experiences, and I think that's important because I think one thing that's really interesting about this podcast is now that I've opened it up to just kind of letting the, having a theme and then just kind of letting the conversation go, is it's also very therapeutic and very healing, which I really like about it.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
I could go on for hours talking about the LDS faith, but
yeah. Well, there's a lot other interesting stuff we can talk about too.
Yeah. Go on.
But not only did I start feeling that judgment around the whole mission thing and people pushing very hard for me to go, but like after my mission, like at the end when I was having my exit interview, I think that's what they called it. I was talking to my mission president, and he said, "Jacob," he said, if you're not married by the time you're 25, you're a menace to society, and you failed on your mission if you didn't get married by then." And I was like,
did he say that like in seriousness or
in absolute seriousness? He was not a joking person.
I don't like that at all.
No, I was like, that's interesting, but okay. So I felt very compelled when I got home from my mission to get married as soon as possible. And so, unfortunately, the first girl I got engaged with ended up not getting married to. There's some stuff that happened about that. But, yeah, that felt very judgmental. Like, just that statement overall was just like, what is happening right now?
I hate that. Oh my goodness.
And then probably the most recent one, this was probably about, I don't know, 3, 4, or 5 years back, something like that. And there was a time where it was in between the summers, and we had a really bad previous summer, unfortunately. We actually got screwed out of about $10,000, unfortunately. And I do have the receipts to prove it, but I don't have the money to fight it, especially a multi-billion-dollar company.
I was so hoping that you would scare
Hello,
him.
Rianne. Welcome.
I thought I saw you turning on the piano or something.
Just start playing.
So
if anybody is watching, my lovely wife Rianne just entered the room.
Sorry, I was plotting and scheming to take over the world.
No problem.
No, I'm just kidding.
Leave me out of it.
Okay, so we're talking about experiences that we've had in the LDS faith and in the LDS church.
Oh, okay.
And then after that, we're going to move on to something else.
I thought you were talking about Vivint.
We did for a little bit. Unfortunately, we did divulge the company name, but now it's out. It's like whatever. But that's okay. But the experience, the last judgmental experience I had, really hit me pretty hard because it was a time we had a really bad summer. We were just screwed out of like $10,000 from a salary I was supposed to be earning, but I was blackmailed legitimately. I'm not alleging right here. I was literally blackmailed.
It wasn't blackmail. It was extortion.
It was blackmail, extortion, same thing.
No, it's not. But,
but
it's extortion.
But anyways, Why do you sound so quiet?
Me?
Is it because you're not talking to the microphone?
I don't
That's
know.
all
Am
right.
I on?
You did adjust the volume at one point.
I think you're just not close enough. That's all. But anyway, so the last judgmental experience I want to share is, you know, we really struggled because, you know, we didn't get that money. I didn't get the overrides I was promised, and it was really rough. I didn't go get a secondary job to hold us over, but I was finally getting my full salary after that. But we did go to the bishop. We said, hey, you know, we just need maybe a couple of months just to kind of get us over the hump here. You know, we were drowning in debt at that point. And he was just kind of like, he's like, really? You guys need help too. And we're just like, yeah.
Come on.
And so he basically got on this whole story about how the ward was just really struggling. Everybody was not self-reliant. Everyone in the ward seemed to always need help and money from the church. And this is coming from the person that's supposed to, you know, be our leader. He's supposed to be the person that is spiritually aware, like, of our situations, and like we're going to them for assistance. And at that point in time, we were still faithfully paying our 10%. You know, even through
debt.
Even though we were struggling with money.
Just have faith. The Lord will take care of it.
And I'm like, we can't even pay tithing at this point. And he's like, no, you still need to pay tithing. You still want to go to the temple, right? And we're like, well, yeah. So anyways, very judgmental. And we're like, look, we're not looking for a handout. We're just looking for a leg up. 2, maybe 3 months tops, and then we should be fine. But he gave us this big spiel and said, okay, great, but you have to attend church. You got to go to the temple. And you have to take this self-reliance class.
That's true. The self-reliance class wasn't horrible. I mean,
we did learn a lot of great things from that class, but the whole situation that we were in, especially from somebody who was supposed to be, you know,
that isn't right.
A spiritual, you know, guidance counselor, basically, it was really hard for me to take.
Did he ever apologize to you for that? Because I kind of feel like, okay,
nope.
I kind of feel like if anybody
they're supposed to be the
say,
judges in Israel. Like that's one of the things that LDS people call their bishops. They're supposed to be an elder in Israel, like a judge in Israel. Like they're supposed to. Yeah,
that irks me so much.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yep, that's when we stopped paying tithing.
Well, not really. We stopped paying tithing when we began to. It was a podcast where we listened to a lawyer.
Yep.
Who,
yeah, we just talked about that.
Yeah, that
the allegations against the church, but sexual relations with, like, you know, leaders, abusers, rape. Like, yeah, really bad, very dark.
Well, and then considering where I work and stuff, the things that I'm privy to.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating to know that how certain things are handled when it comes to victim blaming, sexual assault and DV, and how, well, if you were a better wife and meeting the needs of your husband, this wouldn't be an issue. Like, that's frustrating when leaders, and I'm not saying everybody in the church is like that.
No, there's some great people that are LDS. Absolute, like, you know, spiritual giants, like very great people.
But also what bothers me is the judgmental culture that alienates all the awesome people who are quite amazing, quite Christ-like, and quite inclusive, but are shunned and judged by members of the church because we are encouraged to associate and marry and be with people within our own faith and all that sort of stuff. But some really awesome people that I know personally are amazing.
Yeah. But
are so turned off by the church because the way they are judged just by the fact that they're not LDS or whatever. When, quite honestly, I know quite a few LDS people who do not operate within the LDS values professionally, personally, just based on how, you know what I mean? So it's like, just because you're baptized into a certain religion or whatever, and you espouse a certain values, doesn't mean that you operate on them. And people should not judge anybody Like that's, I think, the biggest issue.
Tell us this one experience. This actually happened very recently. I think it was last year, where you were asked to be on a committee, and you decided that you were going to help, but then because of like some issues, like basically conflict issues with scheduling, and like there was stuff going. I think it was like the gala that was going on at that time.
Oh, okay,
then,
okay, yes.
Yeah, tell me.
Okay, so.
Yeah, tell me this experience.
So this is the other thing that really bothers me is because they utilize spiritual manipulation. Okay. So the church is organized of volunteers. Now, I need to be very clear about this. I still have a testimony of Jesus Christ, of Heavenly Father. I pray every day. I still have that relationship. That's still very near and dear to my heart.
That's awesome.
The gospel is like the teachings of Christ are solid. And I still believe all of those. What frustrates me is the culture of the church and how they use spiritual manipulation to get what they want or to get things done. So there's no paid positions in the church, right? It's all volunteer.
It should be. Let's be real.
I think there are some.
Well, okay,
like,
the leadership. So
not that I know of.
The first presidency, like the leadership of the church gets stipends. So like the president of the church.
Really? They get a salary?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Be specific here. How like deep into the leadership? When you say first presidency, are we just talking about
the prophet, the first, second counselor, 12 apostles?
Yes.
The Area 70.
I don't know about Area 70, but I do know that the 12 apostles and the president, like the first presidency, gets they get a salary.
If that's true, I did not know that.
It's public record. It's public record.
That information is not shared within the culture of the church.
And it is a 6-figure salary.
Because especially like with the amount of work that bishops and just like council and even like Young Women's Council too.
Oh,
like that's a lot of work. Even not just like Sundays, but like just throughout the week.
Throughout the week, right?
Yep.
Like
when she was doing Young Women's, you were literally putting like a couple hours almost every day working on that stuff.
Oh yeah, no, like I love Young Women. Like don't get me wrong, I did it because I wanted to give back. It was a way to give back. And I wanted to, and it also allowed me to be a part of a tribe and to make friends and stuff. That's why people are a member, and that's why they go to wards and stuff, because it allows you to create connection outside of your work and outside of your family. And that's important for us as human beings to have connections, right? And to have those tribes. So like there are definitely positives to it. But what really frustrated me is when this is what's hard is the only time, like we moved here, and I'm not saying this to be mean, because I did, like, there are some amazing people in the ward, and I actually have a lot of respect for a lot of them.
Oh, absolutely.
And, but how do I say this? People in the ward, like, I would go, there were a couple people who talked to me and stuff, but nobody really reached out. I have a job that's pretty intense and takes a lot of my energy and time. Like
even after work,
yes,
you're working
like
hours in the night sometimes.
It's not like a 9 to 5 typically.
It's
like
not.
I work on it more than just that. And I was asked to be the girls' camp cook. Now, keep in mind, like nobody has ever they never got to know me, what I really wanted, or all this stuff. But I knew the person who gave me the calling on a professional level. Mm-hmm. So he's like, okay, will you be the cook? And I'm like, okay. And I was kind of hesitant because I wanted to save my time off so I could come visit you because you were working in a different state and stuff. Yeah. And the camp was in the middle of the week where I had to take time off. Yeah. But I was like, okay, I'm not super excited about having to take so much time off because I kind of have to save that up so I can see my husband. They're like, okay, well, if it's just this one day that we'll need you there the full time and stuff and everything, but you don't have to stay the whole time. So I was like, okay. But when you consider, like, I had to prep all the meals. I tried to make it super easy. I had to prep the meals, all that.
Yep.
I did it and I loved it. And I got to know some people and they were...
You had a blast too. I remember you telling me
Well,
about
it
it. You
wasn't
enjoyed it.
I did. I enjoyed it and I got to know a few people. But after girls' camp was over, nobody, like, I didn't get talked to at all. Like, it's not like they were fast friendships. Nobody ever called me or contacted me after that.
Yeah.
It was just like a one and done. Bye.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I
we
was
might
like,
have had
okay,
two
fine.
letters in the last 3 years we've been here.
And to what?
I think we got 2 letters or like flyers or something.
Oh, yeah. We've gotten flyers put on our door.
Yeah.
That's it. They don't knock or like try to engage.
Yeah.
They just put a flyer on the door. So I'm like, okay, whatever. But like, I was new to the ward. It's not like it's super easy for me. Sorry,
No, you're good.
looking.
I was just checking it
I
out.
just came in and just started talking. I'm sorry. I interrupted, but I'm
You
going
don't need
to
to
tell this
apologize. This is
story.
how we
It's
do
about
this.
time that we hear some stories from Rianne.
This is how we do it.
Okay. So I actually got to know the camp director and I loved her. Like, she's amazing. She was great. She engaged with me. She was very sweet. She was very inclusive. And I appreciated that. Like, that was very nice. And I felt like, okay, yeah, that's awesome. But it's not like we became fast friends and we were hanging out together and stuff because she already
Right.
had her social circle. And it was hard because all the ladies that were up there had a history, you know, and they had, like, they were talking about all this stuff. And I was just kind of sitting there like, yeah. And the person who, the camp director, she was awesome. And she actually tried to include me and engage with me and stuff, which was awesome. I was very insecure being up there, which is kind of hard to believe because I am one of those, like,
Very
"What's up?
strong-willed, very outgoing.
And
yeah.
my job is literally to go out and build relationships and make friends with people. Right. But I'm doing it on behalf of an organization at that point. So it's a little bit easier.
Right.
It's a little bit harder when you're doing it on behalf of yourself, right? You don't want to be judged. You don't want to be, you know what I mean? Anyway, so I go do the girls camp thing. It was awesome. Then COVID hit the next year. We had our own tribulations. We had some of our own stuff going on with a foster kid and everything.
Dark times.
They weren't all dark,
No,
Jacob.
I know.
We had some good times too.
It was a joke.
But
did
it
have a
was
lot of good
hard.
times.
It
very
was hard. I swear, last year was the hardest year of my life. And then this year, running either quite equal or close second. But I'm just thinking it's just the dumpster next door. Or next to it. Yeah, anyway.
We're still in 2020.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah, feels like it.
But she became the young women's president. The camp director became the young women's president. And she felt impressed to ask that I be called as one of her counselors, which was great. And I was happy to do it. I'm like, okay, sure. And at that time, I had not been active in the church. I've had personal experiences. There were a few things that were just really rubbing wrong with me, that I was having some cognitive dissonance with certain things that were happening. But I was like, sure, I will serve. Let's do it. Because again, I will, get outside yourself, serve, all that stuff. I'm all for that. Well, come to find out, it wasn't necessary. I wasn't working directly with this person who I had the relationship with. I was working with somebody else, which is fine. She was very nice and she's a very nice person and everything. But, they created a schedule for lessons to be taught over Zoom because it was COVID and everything.
Right.
And they just assigned me to this weekend in October. Well, that weekend happened to be
The gala.
My gala, which is literally my largest event. If that event doesn't happen or go well, then
You're not
my
doing,
job.
You're not doing your job.
I'm
very
not
well.
doing my job. Like, our livelihood is threatened, right?
Right.
And that was a huge project. Not only is it a huge project, but in a COVID year, when you have all this other stuff, you got to try and figure out, like, hand sanitizers, can they be 6 feet apart, blah, blah, blah.
Masks,
So there was a whole nother level of stress to it. And when I reached out and I said, hey, I can't teach this Sunday. My gala is going to be the night before, and I don't have time to prepare a lesson. Like, I literally don't have time to prepare because
And
my
you explained
entire
it to her too.
yeah.
Like, hey.
And I said, not only me, but my entire family is
we're
all wrapped up in
involved,
this.
Yeah.
And I was told, well, you need to find somebody to take your lesson.
Which was put on you.
So it's put back on me.
No,
without
that's not
your-
your responsibility.
Okay, so let's
Like, you
review.
didn't give consent for her to
Right.
even, like,
so they
have you do it.
scheduled me without talking to me
Mm-hmm.
or without confirming that that's a weekend I could do.
Yeah.
Then when I say, hey, I can't do that, they then put it back on me to find somebody to cover.
Right.
Which is really frustrating when my brain is literally, I'm working day and night doing this
You were
gala
easily
stuff.
working like 12 to sometimes 16 hours days leading up to that.
Yeah, for like 2 and 3 weeks leading
Yeah.
up to it.
Mhm.
So it's then put back on me to do. I'm like, okay, that irritated me, but I did it. So I would text people, and was it done like, could I have done it earlier? Yeah, but honestly, I didn't think about, like, it was done when I could like actually have a moment to actually, it popped into my head. So I would text and try and get people to cover, and they're like, oh no, I can't. Sorry, I'm going to be out of town. No, I can't. No, I can't. No, I can't. And I got no's across the board that they couldn't do it.
Right.
So then I again reached back out to the person who I was working with.
Yeah, you're
not,
communicating with.
not the
Not the nice lady from camp. but
right,
the-
who I really enjoy working with, and I really enjoy her, and I actually work, like, I've had several professional experiences with her and everything.
Mm-hmm.
However, I feel like it's been tainted now because of this.
Right.
Unfortunately. But I said, this is really hard for me. I can't do this. I don't have the capacity to do the lesson. And the response was, well, you were called to this position for a reason. And I know that if you just power through and do it, Heavenly Father will bless you. Do you know how many times that has been utilized to, like, that made me so mad.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that point, it wasn't here, like, I understand you're having a hard time. I just want you to do it because I don't really, like, it just was so infuriating.
Very
because
manipulative.
It seemed so manipulative. And I'm like, I literally am sitting here saying, I don't have the capacity to do this right now. Don't you think I'm praying just to have the capacity to pull off this huge event, which I might say was the most successful event of the organization?
Yeah, it was baller. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
It was a great event.
Like, but I was praying for help with that because that had a, like, to me, that was important. And it's really frustrating because they that phrase of, well, if you just persevere and do it, the Lord will bless you. Like, I get that the Lord will bless me. I have a relationship with the Lord, right? But I also know that, like, you're more likely to get people to do stuff for you if you have, like, it just frustrated me. None of them took time to, like, get to know me. None of them took time to, like, actually know me as a person. I was just somebody to fill this spot that nobody else was willing to or wanted to or could do because they all had their own stuff to do.
right.
Which was really frustrating. And when I'm literally saying I'm happy to switch, I wasn't saying I'm not going to do it at all. I'm just saying this weekend I can't do it. I'm happy to switch with you.
That definitely was not a weekend that you would have had time
Right.
to prepare for it.
So that was my biggest frustration. And the spiritual manipulation that came into play was ridiculous. Because it's like, and here's the thing. When I was super, super active in the church, that line would have worked on me.
Yeah.
That line would have worked on me. But, and people are going to be like, well, you don't have the Spirit. You don't, if you would have had the Spirit, you would have known, or blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing. I do have the Spirit because instead of am focusing on how doing what everybody else tells me to do, like in the church, and like, you got to do this, this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually taken time to develop my relationship with the Spirit and taken time to learn how the Spirit talks to me and stuff.
Yeah.
And literally, The Spirit was telling me, you got to work on this. This is important.
Right.
This is a big deal.
Because it deals with protecting people, that are in.
Yeah. So, like, to me, like, I feel like the Lord knew what I was doing, and I felt prompted. In fact, I felt like the Lord actually was being very kind and reminding me, hey, you didn't get your lesson covered. Reach out.
Reach out to somebody.
Do the responsible thing. Reach out to people. Like, that's the promptings and impressions I was getting. And to be told that, anyway, I was just really frustrated. And that,
I can see that.
That kind of was the straw that was like, okay. I could get if I was like, oh, I don't want to teach today because I want to go and have fun with my family. No, I don't want to teach today because I'm trying to ensure that we have enough funding for the next year so that survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault can receive services.
Yeah. And we were actually cleaning up very late into the night. I think we didn't get home till close to like 11:30, like midnight. I think it was midnight. So who's going to wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning, try to prepare a lesson, in 30 minutes and then teach for an hour? It's like, anyway.
Yeah. So it was a little frustrating.
I just want people to understand we don't hate the church. We don't hate the people. Okay.
And I don't even mind teaching or like doing the study and doing all that stuff. But I do mind the spiritual manipulation that comes into play to get people to do what you want. Yeah. Sorry. That bugged me.
I will say I do hate that.
I think we all concur.
Like, don't hate the church, don't hate the people that are involved in it.
And honestly, believe whatever you want to believe. Like, we're not here to tell you one way or the other. We're just sharing our experiences, our thoughts and feelings on the matters.
But here's the thing: nowhere in the gospel did Jesus say you have to do this in order to be saved and to be in. You know what I'm saying? Like, Jesus didn't spiritually manipulate. That's not part of the gospel. But it bugs me when it's used.
Yeah. So let's talk about spirituality. Like, we can start talking about woo-woo stuff. So I guess that's kind of what I've turned to. Like, I still like again, I profess myself as a agnostic theist. So I believe there's a God, but I do not believe there's any way to prove or disprove that God exists. So I think there's some form of God, whether that's the universe, whether that's spirituality, whatever that is. I still pray to God. I still talk to God every day.
Because we pray together.
And we pray together. Yeah, we actually do.
And we still use the terms and we pray the way we were taught.
Yeah, we still address Heavenly Father and we still close in the name of Jesus Christ. I mean.
Well, he was.
But anyway.
I'm not going to go crazy on it. But.
So anyway, I guess since you're here, Mr. Alakai, why don't you talk to us a little bit? You're so adorable. Oh my goodness. I just want to pinch your cheeks right now.
Please don't.
Just want to touch your beard. Okay, anyway.
Okay, I feel really weird about this conversation right now. He's presented.
So I guess tell us a little bit about where you're at with your spirituality.
Honestly, I don't know. Like a lot of my experiences with the church are like still fairly fresh and new. Yeah. Like that whole experience that I was talking about, like that only happened like 4 or 5 years ago. Like it wasn't
pretty fresh. Yeah.
So like just within that time, like I haven't really had a lot of motivation, I guess, to explore a lot of other things. My whole thought, like, I don't know. I don't know what's out there. I do know that, like, whatever is out there, I don't think it's anything that an undeveloped brain can wrap his brain around. Or, like, I don't think that it's anything that I am capable of understanding, and I don't think that I'm meant to understand it, which is totally fine, and I can be okay with that. I'm not really trying to look for any answers. I just don't think I need that. Like,
yeah, I mean that's perfectly fine.
I'm just here to live a life, build deep, meaningful relationships, and love the people that I love. And I kind of feel like if I can just go about life and doing that, then wherever I end up when I die will be a place where I can be content or work to be content.
Yeah.
If it is a man in a white robe and a long white hair and beard, cool.
Or a woman. No, I'm just.
No, really. Or a woman.
My goodness! I just had flashbacks of that South Park episode where God visits the inhabitants, and it's this very strange creature. Anyway.
Yeah, it's been a minute since I've.
If it is like a physical man who we were made after his image, or if it's just some other being that takes a different form, or if it's just if it is the universe itself, like trying to speak to us in some way, shape, or form, and giving us different. What I do find interesting is how a lot of different beliefs come to like the big three.
Mm-hmm.
And the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, or in like Norse mythology, you got Odin, Loki, Thor,
right.
and like a bunch of other,
or you got Hindi where it's like many multiple gods.
Right.
Like I don't remember what the count was, but I think it was in the thousands at some point.
Right.
Who knows?
It is interesting because it's like a lot of these myths and legends. It's like where
there are there's common threads through all of them.
Yeah.
Very common. Yeah.
So it's where did those stories come from? Where is the truth in that? I also am totally open to the idea that there isn't just one truth. Like maybe the Norse gods are real. Maybe the Greek gods are real. Maybe our one true God is real. Like whatever you want to cater to, or whatever you were raised in. Maybe it is all real. Maybe it is all not. I don't know. I'm not here to try to understand it. I am totally happy to hear about it, and like wisdom's
find it interesting. Yeah,
wisdom's everywhere. You just got to breathe it. But like,
yeah. Well, I think religion definitely has its place. I mean, it's definitely produced a lot of great people. It's also created a lot of weirdos.
But here's I want to put a little input in on that.
Okay.
Religion. Okay, organized religion is a structure of power and control. People.
I think I can agree with that.
So, and not all power and control is hard. People are bad.
Good.
Sorry,
bad,
good or bad. But like, religion can play a big role in for people who need it, right? Like, there are aspects of religion and of the structure, even of the church and all that I learned that help keep me centered. Okay. That keep me from going way off the end one way or the other way. Right. Like, so there is something to be said. It creates a sense of order so that we can function. That's not a bad thing. And that's why I think there's those commonalities, in every religion. That's kind of the one thing that keeps people centered. It's not a bad thing. But it's when people take and utilize and understand how to utilize that
for nefarious purposes,
for power and control, and to manipulate a population. That's when you get into cult-like behavior. You know what I mean?
Well, just looking back, back through the Crusades. I mean, it was a very dark time for religion back then.
Right. But that is people taking, that is spiritual manipulation. And organized religion, like, it primes the pump and allows for that sort of stuff to happen. But there's truth in it, and that's why. I think that's why people understand that there's a sense of truth in, there's something bigger out there.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's why they're able to be manipulated, right? Because they have that sense. But I feel like people can definitely utilize religion and utilize that type of thing for manipulation, power, and control. And to stay in a sense of power. The new religion currently is politics. I mean, if you really think about it, politics are the new religion.
Well, and science as well.
And astrology.
Yeah, that too.
Well, I think of it this way. I mean, I can see the possibilities of Darwinism where, over, tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of years, we've developed, from a primate to what we are now. I mean, that sounds pretty logical. I can also see that, like the LDS faith, we lived before we were born. There was a purpose. We came to this life to learn and grow, and then we're going to go somewhere afterwards. And that there's a creator within all of this. There's someone who's made this be a purpose, that we have a purpose. And I also think, I know.
I don't know
And
if
the
I'm
other,
mentally-
this is where it doesn't become as deep. But the other idea is that aliens created us or manipulated our gene pool from chimpanzees into
I
the
have
humanoids we are today.
so many different thoughts and theories about aliens. This is a new one, though.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, like, I could see the
Like-
possibilities in all of these things.
I feel like we should
But-
be really high for this conversation.
Or drunk, one of the two.
Because this is like, I am honestly at my brain capacity. I told you I was literally plotting and scheming to take over the world up there. That's what, and my brain's exhausted. I don't know if I can follow this.
Yeah.
I'm
So I
just
mean,
talking out my butt right.
yeah, and that's okay. We're again, people. This isn't law or anything to back this up. This is just our thoughts and feelings and opinions. It's okay. It's okay to share what we think.
No, it's good.
It's good to have an open forum.
And Rian thinks that we need to be high for this conversation, which I mean, totally open to.
I was, I
Which
was
I'm open
joking.
to.
Where the edibles at?
And that's another thing too. Like, kind of go back, through the scientific.
I do not
method.
promote drug use.
Well, okay, you're right. We don't promote drug
I
use.
just-
If it's not legal.
However,
I don't even promote it with prescription drugs, to be honest. Opioids are killing anyway. Sorry.
that's a whole other.
Yeah, we won't go there right now.
That's a great documentary on it, though. The greatest
Showman.
crime of America or something like that. Anyway,
Yeah. I don't
so
know what it is.
I listen to a lot of Joe Rogan, and he shares a lot of his experiences when he took DMT.
I'm not gonna lie. I think that would be fun to try. Might
Well,
freak
I
me
think
out,
it's
but-
really interesting, and the band Tool. So they have a cover. I think it's 1,000 Days, where they have kind of this like very, like these weird faces and a very long like hallway down where it's just like.
This is their album cover.
Yeah. Do you know
Okay.
the one I'm talking about? Well, when Joe had this experience, he talks about these he didn't really call them entities, but he heard or like felt or like thought of a voice telling him, hey,
He doesn't want to
this
sound
isn't-
crazy, but he saw it.
they
They were there. They're for real.
He definitely experienced something. Like, we can't really dictate one way or the other what, but I would love to sit down and be like, hey, tell me what you experienced. And he says he doesn't really know what he experienced, but he remembers like a thought put in his head that says that something about don't be like this isn't fantastic. Like, you don't have to be surprised about any of this stuff.
Is this one?
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking
Okay,
about.
I couldn't find it on Spotify for whatever reason.
Yeah,
Right, that's the one.
That's the one I'm talking about. And
God, that's creepy.
and there's like a lot of other people
Oh.
that have had these different experiences tripping on DMT and mushrooms and stuff like that, where they've said they've experienced something where they don't know if they spoke or talked with God, or if they talked with aliens from another planet, or maybe they were only speaking to themselves within their own mind.
So that's what the monks have been doing in the temple this whole time. But what if though? Like,
But here's the thing: you totally can reach that state of nirvana or whatever without drugs. It takes practice. That's why they call it a meditation practice. But people have done it.
Yeah.
They have kundalini is what they call it.
Kundalini.
I think.
What
I'm
is
pretty
that? Is that like a
It's
practice
a state of
or
they've reached kundalini. They've reached that state where they're
their mind separates themselves from
the body, and it can experience things outside of the physical realm.
And this is where we start getting to woo stuff.
There's a lot of stories too with that where like I connected with the afterlife. I talked to my dead father, or like some like had like a message from someone that they knew that was close to them from
beyond the veil.
Yeah.
So you want to hear a funny story?
Yeah.
Because it's actually relevant to what he just said. So my mom, love her. She's very like, she's the church, right?
Oh yeah. She's very straight.
She's
narrow.
very devout, and she goes to church every day. She's very
every
awesome.
Sunday. You mean not every day?
But yeah,
I go to church every day.
Every day, son.
All
day.
Okay. Well, that was my ear that just happened.
I apologize for blowing anybody else's ear.
So, but she went to who was it? She went to a lady who speaks to angels. And she called it to tell me that my dad, who has passed on, is with me. And my mom said that she asked the lady, she said, well, does he help Rianne? And the response was, he says that he helps her when she lets him. And I was like, okay, well, she does have me there. I do not like her. But she said that that's a real thing. People do what?
That's really interesting.
What were you looking at? You guys are making me conscious.
You looked that way and you were like, "Oh my gosh!" and then turned this way. So
I'm like,
your
what's
body
happening?
language when you said that, I think threw us both off.
I was like, "What's happening?"
Well, I just think it's really interesting that people have had like these very instances where they've had a feeling or a thought or propelled to do something that they normally wouldn't do because like something told them. Like this is where we talk about like the spirit talking to us. Some people call it, burning the bosom. Sometimes people get like a beautiful thought in their head, but like I've had very interesting experiences like that for those that have passed on. Like one of the ones I can think of right off the top of my head is my grandfather on my dad's side passed away when I was very young. And when he was buried, it was very snowy. And I remember, being very sad that day, but then feeling comforted because I felt like he was there with me. There's an instance where my mother and my father, while they were together, they were visiting our cabin over in Montana. And during that time, they hadn't realized that the wood-eating beetles had, killed a lot of these trees, but you just couldn't see them because they're all eating inside of these trees. Well, one of these trees were eaten so bad that it was apparently about ready to fall down. And my mother, of course, not knowing that, she was prompted, whether it was by the Spirit or God or Jesus, we don't know.
Or the energy.
Or the universe.
Or the dust.
Or the dust.
We're talking about his dark materials.
Yeah.
Yes!
I'm so glad I just found more people that watch that show.
Let me finish this.
We need to have a screen. We just need to have a party.
I would love to.
Okay. Finish your story.
Great series. Anyways.
Sorry.
So she had the prompting from what she said was the Spirit to move the van from, from one side of the cabin to the other side. And she didn't do it the first couple times she was prompted, but on the third time she did, and she moved it. And literally not like a few minutes later, that huge tree fell right where that van was. What was that? We don't know.
I have a similar experience.
When I was younger,
I want to hear yours.
my little brother decided to take his 3-wheel and disappear. We didn't know where he was at. We didn't know what was going on. And me, young at the time, I was like, well, I don't know where he's at. And she was like, well, we need to call somebody. We started calling people and calling the police. And then all of a sudden I want to call it a vision, because in my mind, I could see where he was at, and he was in the bottom part of the canal that was running through there, because there was a lot of farmland when we were growing up. And he got stuck there with this 3-wheeler. And so I said, hey, Mom, you don't need to call the police. I know where he's at. And sure enough, we were able to drive over to where he was at, and that's where he was. exactly how I saw it.
Fancy.
Very interesting, right?
Okay, I want to hear Alakai's story.
I would
now.
love to hear Alakai's story. That's why he's
So
here.
It's not necessarily a story. It's just like my thought on it isn't like necessary. Like maybe it is like the whole energy. Maybe it is a prompting from the spirit. My thoughts, intuition. Like
It's another great word for it.
my mother has amazing mother's intuition. How do I know? Because she came to a spot where like I was doing stupid stuff at a high school party once. There have also been times like I have used this professionally. Like I feel like I've gotten pretty good over the last couple of years of recognizing my own intuition and using it professionally and in my relationships with my family and with my loved ones and just anything else. But I think also in a work experience that I had at the previous place that I worked at was a boarding school. And these are kids that have a lot of behavioral issues. And there was one in particular student there that I was just throughout the night, I was just getting really weird vibes from them. So I was like, okay, at the end of the night when everybody's in bed, I'm just going to pull him aside and just talk to him. And so the way that I got this going was I pulled him aside. We talked and I was like, all right, need to pee? Because we do drug tests. So he just like immediately when I said that, he just kind of looked at me. He was just like, oh. And so before we get to the nurse's office, I was like, look, man, like I don't do you have anything that you want to tell me right now? And he's just like, no. I'm like, okay, well, I really don't care if you do anything. I just don't want you to lie to me. Like, that's it. And as soon as I said that, that's when he was like, yeah. And it was great. Like we were able to sit down and like have a long talk, and he was able to get things off of his chest, and it was beautiful. It was great. I've used it in my current job now, where it's one of those things where, like little things where you're like, I can tell something is up, or that there's something that needs to be addressed. So those are just my thoughts. Like
no,
that's really interesting.
That gut feeling that you can recognize. It's like
it's like what is that like
you feel something.
Science
say
can't
something,
figure it out.
Right?
They just like just like science can't figure out love. It's just like what is this like?
Well, how many times did that happen?
Try not to hit the table because the mic's on the table. So it's like I can like hear it like.
It's not terrible.
Wham.
I can hear it too. It's not that bad. Anyway.
So can I.
So, but like how many times did I say something's up? We got to search the kiddo's room.
And every time.
Oh, I know.
Was I right?
I know for a fact you got some mom's intuition too.
Oh,
right,
yes,
Rhiannon?
I do.
It was very incredible.
I was like,
and she was literally on like 85-90% of the time.
Oh, 95% of the time.
Yeah. Okay. All right. 95.
And the only reason why I was off is because I was off on where he was hiding it.
Yeah. True.
It wasn't because I didn't know something was up. It was just like I couldn't necessarily put my finger on it, but I'm like, something's up.
I was still surprised like how much like vape stuff like we caught him with.
I'm not. Anyway.
It was ridiculous.
Oh, trying to get those clouds, bro.
Oh gosh, it's so stupid. Anyway.
You jewel, bro.
Okay, but I do have an experience.
Oh, share it.
That doesn't actually involves a complete stranger. Okay. So and what's weird is I used to work for a chiropractor like when I was 18, and he would get like all these ladies that loved him that were like psychics, or you know what I mean, they literally made their living as like doing readings for people and everything, and they would come in and they'd be like, you are so gifted, and I'm like, what the hell are you even talking about?
Have you seen your aura?
But legit, I would get stuff like that all the time. And like I really got into that stuff for a long time, and it's because I do get that sense. And I actually, anyway, well, I won't go too deep, but I had a roommate who had epilepsy. Okay. And she was going in for brain surgery. And so I had to take her because her father was out of town and whatever. Her mom lived in California, blah, blah, blah. So I actually had to take her in to get checked into the hospital and everything. And as I was sitting in the waiting room while she was like doing her pre-op check-in, everything, I'm sitting in the waiting room at the hospital. And people are waiting, you know, like, because this is the surgery waiting room. So everybody that's in there is waiting on somebody who's in surgery.
Right.
And I'm sitting there and I get the sense, I look over and there's this lady sitting in a chair with, she's older, like in her 60s, with a younger woman who was maybe in her late 20s, mid 30s, like anywhere between there. And I had the very distinct, like, I thought somebody was literally sitting next to me say, go tell her everything's going to be okay. That exact phrase. Go tell her everything's... I'm like, what the crap? Tell who? Say what? Phrase came again. Go tell her everything's going to be okay. And I'm like, you know what? This is weird. I was like kind of freaking out. I'm like, who? And then like when I saw it and it's like, then I looked and as my gaze lined up with her, it said her. And I was like, okay. And it was very distinct. And I've only had this happen a few times in my life. One of them was to get me to move to Arizona to meet you. So I'm just saying. But I went up to her. I know. My life is pretty awesome. I've had some awesome experiences, but I went up to her and I said, I'm so sorry. I don't know if this is going to be crazy or not, but I just have I just feel like I need to let you know that everything's going to be okay. And she looked up at me and she just started bawling. Like, I mean, full on like ugly cry bawling. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? She stood up and she held me and just like, she hugged me. Aww. And keep in mind, I'm like this little, like, not little. I was in like, I think I was maybe 19 at the time. Maybe. I was 18 or 19. And I'm sitting there. I'm like, I have no idea why I just said that or what. But this old lady is holding me and she's like, I literally was just praying to know that. And I was like, okay. And I go, but I don't know. And that's all that happened. I was like, okay. She let go. She sat down and talked and like was just crying. And I left.
Oh, wow.
But that was like, I mean, it was very much just go tell her everything's going to be okay. It was weird.
See, it's stories like that where I'm just like, you know what? If you're up there, not bad.
Well, and that's
I had the experience, not a similar experience, but I had an interesting experience actually with you. Remember when we met in the Walmart parking lot?
I love it when he pulls stories out of his memory.
Yeah, so this was a while ago where like
a couple of months after we were done working. Yeah,
so I heard someone yell my name and I turn around and it's Jacob and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I haven't seen this, and it was this cool moment where we just got a chance to catch up and bond again, and it was like, wow, so much has happened over the last
a few months. I think it was like 3 or so months. Like since I've been back.
I think I was more surprised because it was during the summer.
Yeah.
It was during the summer.
Oh, yeah. It was like probably in the end of May, maybe?
Something like that. I had seen you and I was...
No, it's probably farther than that.
It was during the summer, either way. But
maybe June or July.
Was it last year?
Yeah, it was last year.
It was over 2020.
And he was really
I remember because he came home and told me he saw you.
And I was like, it was really interesting. I was like, guess who I saw in Walmart?
Because I remember because it was like right after, or not right after, but it was like a couple months after I had gotten my new position at my previous job.
Yeah.
I was moving into the supervisor position and
you just got over COVID, right?
You had COVID?
Was I getting over COVID?
I think you said you just got over COVID.
No. So I did get COVID, but I got it
after that.
I got it after we had that conversation, like a few months after.
Oh yeah.
So,
but it was really interesting is that the first few days of that week, I was like, I wonder what Alakai's doing. I wonder if he's doing okay.
I didn't know that.
And then all of a sudden, like a day or two later, why are you in the Walmart parking at the same time I am? I mean, it is a small town. Like, let's be honest.
It is,
but
City.
It's very serendipitous.
But it's interesting the fact that when you guys when we met, we weren't even living in Cedar City.
No, we
No.
weren't.
And you were
I
living
was-
in Arizona.
No, I was living in California.
Or California,
You guys were
that's
still
right.
in Ogden.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
we were-
So-
yeah.
Yeah, we had spent some time working together over the years, and then I think, like, I was moving to Cedar City right as you guys were. I think.
Around-
It was around a very similar
It was around
time.
the same time.
So when did you guys move to Cedar? Remind me.
3 years ago.
September of 2018.
Yeah.
Okay, because I moved in the beginning.
Almost
of,
4 years. Wow.
I moved the beginning of 2019. Like I moved in New Year's Day.
Oh, okay.
Like I already made the decision to move to Cedar City the minute that I got my acceptance letter from SUU. But
Are you at SUU
Yeah.
right now?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you like it?
I love it so far.
What are you doing there? Like, what are you studying?
So originally I was studying like secondary education to teach English, then decided that I would despise preparing hour-and-a-half lessons for 5 days a week
I could not.
For teenagers.
for teenagers. And then
Like little turd head.
yeah, but then
Oh,
like
goodness.
with my job mentoring at a boarding school, I was like, you know what? I could see myself doing like academic counseling or career counseling. So I switched to psychology and human services. So that's what I'm
how
doing.
is
Where are
psychology,
you working
by
right
the way?
now?
So I currently work for Crimson Counseling. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're a fairly new company. They just opened up a Cedar City office back in November.
Where's it at?
It's over, but you know where Griffles is?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So they're behind. Their office is right behind there.
Oh okay.
So
Oh,
I know that
okay. Yeah.
complex.
So,
okay.
So yeah, that's where I'm working at now, and it's more just it's working one-on-one with clients, like younger kids, or it's a wider age range. So we have teenagers, adults with autism, or some social impairment, or just everything, and we're just teaching skills, just
Cool.
functioning skills, and like I've taught a couple of social skills lessons. I taught one this last week on flexible thinking. Taught one a couple of weeks ago on self-care. We had a lesson today about dealing with stress. So
What's that book about mindset? Have you read that? An open mind,
Some
the
random
open
book
mindset.
about mindset that you don't
No,
remember the
well,
title of.
I don't remember the title, but it talks about how you can tell the difference between somebody who has a closed mindset and an
That's-
open mindset.
yeah, we went over that a lot, and flexible thinking was just like, what's the difference between flexible thinking and then rigid thinking, and then underneath both of them was like open-minded, closed-minded.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, now I'm gonna have to look it up because it's gonna bug me.
I like it because it's like when I get asked to teach social skills lessons, I always look for skills that I need to work on, because then I can research it, and then as I'm like learning how to teach it, that's when I'm like, okay, this is a skill that I can now use because I know so much about it now.
Yay.
So yeah, it's
I
a great job.
really-
I love it. So
That's awesome. I love the reason why. The outward mind. No, is it the outward mindset that I
who's it by?
read? Oliver Wyman.
Edited by your mom.
Jacob.
I don't know.
I think the outward mindset.
Can't give me your mom jokes. I always laugh at them.
You're like, dang it, Jacob. That was a stupid joke. I don't want to laugh at it right now, but it is very funny.
You don't understand. He always pulls out like these dumb dad jokes, and I'm just like, and this was more prevalent when we had a kiddo, but I'm like, hey, Jacob, where's this? And he's like, did you check your butt? Bugs me so bad.
Hey, Rianne.
I definitely had to back off on that.
You know what they say
Keep
about
our relationship
you know what
intact.
they say about cliffhangers.
Oh dear. Why did we start this? Oh no. I don't even know, but now I don't want to know because it's making you laugh. What do they say about cliffhangers?
Am I seriously making up a joke on the fly? Hold on. I think I got something.
What do they
Do
say?
you not get it?
Oh my gosh! My gosh!
I like that humor. It's very dumb, but it's smart, but it's very dumb humor, but like it's really interesting.
Or like
Because then there's people like me that really sit and try and think, and then I sit and overthink stupid stuff, and I'm like, and then when you say it, I'm like, oh, because it makes me feel dumb.
But then there's like the anti-jokes, just like, hey, guess what I saw today? Everything I looked at.
Okay.
You know what's odd?
Oh dear God.
Every other number.
Oh.
Oh goodness.
You guys, like,
it's
you
been
should
so
do a
long
whole
since
session about like stupid dad jokes. You know how like Will Ferrell and
Oh goodness.
the Wahlberg guy did
I
that.
like how you point at us as if you're like, I do not want to be involved.
I
in this.
don't. I don't. But that would probably be very entertaining.
It'd be very entertaining for me. I love
Just
it.
have like a 30-minute
love dumb
podcast
jokes.
of you and me just sitting here. Just
Well,
like,
it's like you
hey.
try and make each other, like, the goal is to not laugh, right? So you're telling all these
Try not
jokes.
to laugh.
Try not to laugh at stupid
I don't
dad
know if
jokes.
this is funny or not, but I just came up with it.
Oh.
What did the plank say to the diving board? You bored?
That
Stupid.
was so bad.
I just made it up just now.
Oh my gosh.
What
don't.
did one hat say to the other? You wait here. I'll go on ahead.
Oh my gosh.
So
What did the Dotson say to the hot dog?
the what say to the hot
The
dog?
Dotson
Dachshund.
say to the hot dog.
No, I don't know what.
Don't be such a wiener.
Because it's a dachshund is
The wiener dog.
is the technical term for a wiener dog.
I got it.
I love it. When
You
we,
got no. Okay, we got to
I'm
stop.
gonna be completely honest. I love this, and I think we should have another podcast for
Please.
try not to make each other laugh or
Okay.
try to make each other
Oh,
laugh.
goodness.
But like,
I would be terrible.
and
Try
now
not
I'm
to
just
laugh
and now
challenge.
I'm having a hard time coming back to spirituality and religion and beliefs.
Well, I
And I'm
think
like,
I think we
That-
need to move off of that because it was getting a little too deep for my brain.
That's okay.
Well,
so
wait, how long have you guys been doing this now?
we started at.
I don't know.
Did we start at 7:15?
Wow, we're at 2 hours.
What happened? Whoa.
Mind blowing.
What happened to your like timer thing that you put on there?
I forgot to start it. We were like 30 minutes in, and I was like, I should probably start that. And I started it, and then it bugged me that it was going, and I knew it was off by like 20 or 30 minutes.
I was sitting there looking at
And
it,
I
and I was
closed
like,
it.
"That's not right." And then
yeah.
and then you kept on looking at it, and I was like, "I'm gonna do something about it." And then you went ahead and
I honestly, like, I think if I was going to come up with some funny stuff, I'd really have to sit down and really write stuff out, because I have some funny stuff. Actually, I have a really good bit about the first time I saw my first pair of boobs.
Wait, what?
oh my, you're just immediately.
What is Why are you talking about boobs?
Well, I'm just saying, I have some funny stuff in the back of my head, but I really need to sit down and start like writing stuff out to actually like turn them into bits and make it like actual jokes and stuff like that. But I do have a really good one.
Okay.
Oh, you guys want to hear it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I was in high
wanna hear it
school.
anyway.
Yeah, you
and
guys go
all
ahead.
the
I'm gonna
all the
finish
cute
this
girls,
text.
all the cute girls were in FFA in agriculture for some strange reason. But anyways, there was one girl in particular. She was, we called them ravers back then. They always had the bright colored beads and bracelets and necklaces, and they wore big baggy Jinko jeans. Anyways, this girl was really cute, and for some reason one day she started to take turns like having other guys go into what we called the mobile mini, which is just basically like a big, large metal crate, like would go on like a ship or a big truck trailer or whatever. Anyways, so she was taking turns having guys come in. She was exposing herself for some strange reason. But anyways, I didn't realize what was going on. I was called in. She was like, "Hey." I'm like, "Hey." But the thing is that she had beautiful brown eyes, but she had a lazy eye. And unfortunately, the parts on her were looking in different directions. So when you looked at her eyes and you looked down at her chest, you weren't sure which direction to look at. I totally butchered that. But anyways, that was the bit that's going on in my head. But anyways, I apologize. This is supposed to be family friendly.
Why are
Well, you didn't say the actual word.
so
I said boobs. Anyway.
Yeah, but maybe
Boobs.
it's like TV. It's okay to see the boob as long as you don't see the.
The nip.
So the other day I was
So you're gonna
trying
say?
to,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was looking
Let him
for
talk.
so I was looking for camouflage pants, right? I couldn't find them.
Oh God.
They're so smart and so dumb at the same time. I
So,
love those kinds of jokes. It's
My grandpa always tells the same joke whenever I'm over. He's like,
I just can't
So,
wait to see the trolls on this.
I know. So he's like, so did you know that Noah refused to take one animal on the ark? Can you guess what it was? And I was like, no. What was it? It's like, oh, it was a woodpecker. And I was just like, that's brilliant, but that is so dumb.
it's really smart, but it's super dumb. Like at the same time, you're just like, I understand the joke, and it's really dumb.
Like, he also says, Confucius say, men who run in front of car, he get tired. Confucius say, men who run behind car, he get exhausted. Confucius say,
Oh
man,
my
Okay.
goodness!
man with an itchy butt, you have a stinky finger.
Oh dear God. Okay.
Oh my goodness! We really knew. We
You guys
really
need
do.
to save this for your
Bro.
for your time together.
Bro.
I'm telling you right now, we need to have a guys' night. We need to have a guys' night where we get together, we play some cards, we shake some dice, like we drink some beers, whatever we got to do, just to
You
have
are-
a night where we can enjoy ourselves. Because
Alec,
I
you're
miss-
welcome to come hang out
I
anytime.
miss
Cool.
our hangouts that we used to have in the summer.
Yeah, I'm done.
Cool.
I mean, it is summer now, so. Not that that means anything for me.
That's not even a joke or a bit, but that was hilarious.
Yeah, you guys can only get together and have play dates in the summer.
Yeah, I'll have to bust out my my magic cards. I still have a battle box I haven't played with since
No,
we played. Actually,
you play Magic too.
I'm gonna be honest. No, I don't play Magic.
like we played it like a couple of times one summer, and that was.
Did you force him to play Magic with you, like you forced me to play
he
Magic?
he never forced me to. I was always like,
But did
you
you
know
said,
what?
hey, do you want to try it?
We don't have any jobs going on. I might as well go hang out with Jay anyway.
Did he use his position of power to force you into it?
No, actually, he didn't.
Okay, good.
I never once felt like. I don't think you ever
don't-
made me feel like I had to do something that was uncomfortable. Anytime that I felt like I was doing something, I never felt uncomfortable in any position that you had me in. So
Well, that's good.
That
See,
came-
I was,
that came
I
out
was a
wrong.
good leader. I really was. Like, I think I missed it because I started talking.
I got her.
I'm so bad. I missed it. What happened?
So I'm not gonna explain it again.
Okay,
So
You'll-
good.
you'll-
You'll have to
you'll-
go back and watch it.
I'll have to go back and watch it. I guess. Good times. I don't know. We'll figure something out.
Oh, Alec,
Like,
that was
there-
awesome.
I don't know what we're gonna do, but we'll figure it out.
Hey, when do we get to have
his
my
dark-
guests on?
His Dark Materials. As soon as you schedule them, let's do it.
All
So-
right.
His Dark Materials.
We'll
Is
to
that-
do a podcast on his Dark Materials.
Oh.
I'm totally cool with that one.
Because
Yeah.
you guys know the third season's supposed to be the last one, right?
Yeah, because it's supposed to follow
There are
what
3 books
for each
so
book,
this
yeah.
is-
That's why I figured it was going to be a limited series,
Dude,
which I'm glad because
but what's her name? What's her name? Lyra's mother.
Mrs. Coulter.
Coulter. That's right.
I liked her
Dude.
better in the first season. The second season, she was okay.
I think the actress is brilliant and does great. I don't have a problem with her whatsoever.
No, the character. I'm saying the character itself. She'd be
Very
Freaking
devious.
evil.
Yeah, very much so.
I don't know if it's that simple. Because, I
Wait.
mean...
well. It never is, right? So it's never that
doing
simple.
this?
Of
Because it's like... I do think that, like, everything that she does because she wants to protect Lyra. But at the same time, it's like... A lot of what you're doing is questionable.
oh no, it's not
So-
questionable. It's downright bad. She killed people.
Yeah, but... I will say, I do have a problem with the whole killing kids thing. Like that.
Yeah.
Not a fan of
Like
it.
severing the souls from them, like their
Sorry,
demons
Anakin,
or whatever.
you're not in
Sorry, Anakin, you don't have enough metachlorians in your blood, so you're not the chosen one.
Okay, you people changed franchises.
So, it worked.
Anyways,
What do you mean?
you were in the middle of saying something.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm just
sorry.
saying, like, she's devious. Like, you know, I get it. I can have some dark thoughts, but man.
She actually doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and like, I get that mama bear thing. Like, if somebody messes with the people I love, look out. I'm coming at you. But I don't think I could ever. Well, I don't know. Maybe I could kill somebody.
I thought you were gonna.
But
beat
it wouldn't
up,
be unprovoked.
I thought you were gonna beat up that. Remember my old manager, his girlfriend.
Oh. Ooh, she came at me wrong. Oh man, I had to not ever talk to her again.
I don't know if you ever. I don't know because this was before your time.
This is a story.
This is before your time. So this is my old boss. So he had a cray girlfriend.
Wife now.
That wife now. But anyway.
We've all had that.
But anyway, so
Yeah, I know.
she came to visit, and of course
I
they
am
used
the cray-cray
he had 2 bathrooms. He had one in the master suite, and then he had one in the hallway because he had a 2-bedroom apartment. She came to visit, and she used
the guest
hall,
bathroom.
the hall bathroom to change and get ready and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, when she came, you know, we got there in the morning to do our morning like meetings and stuff like that. And oh yeah, she's here. Okay, cool, whatever. Well, I needed to go to the bathroom, and when I went into the bathroom, there was makeup, hair dryer, bras,
laying everywhere.
like underwear, like just everywhere. And I'm just like, okay.
Now,
and there
keep
was a
in
bra
mind,
on the top of the toilet seat. Well, I needed to go pee, so I just took it and set it down over to the side. Went to the bathroom, washed my hands, and I went back to the meeting.
but keep in mind, this apartment is meant to be operating as an office.
As an office, yeah.
So, like, her
Professionalism at its finest.
right. So her personal effects were laying around the office, which is not professional. But what happened, so he did his thing, right? I'm sitting in, because I'm also working
Yeah, she was
at the time. I was an office
assistant at that time.
manager.
You were an office manager. Okay.
I wasn't just an assistant. Anyway.
I
I don't know why
understand.
that bugs me, but people are like, no, I had a better, like, it was better.
You're the office manager. Okay.
So, anyway, so she calls me on the supervisor's phone, his supervisor's phone. So
Yeah,
I'm
so
thinking
my
it's
manager-
his supervisor
Yeah.
calling me,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not. I say hello. She rips in, you better tell your effing husband to never touch my shit. Just going off. And she's like, that's my personal crap. And I was like, excuse me?
This is our office.
And then she hung up. And I was like, oh, hell no. Mm-mm. So I called his supervisor, who technically outranks me, but I was like, that does not fly. I called him, and he didn't answer his phone. And I left a message. I was like, excuse me, sir, but the next time your girlfriend calls and verbally abuses me because she left her crap laying around in a restroom that was supposed to be
Supposed to be for the office.
that's used for public use, you better like get her in check, because there's gonna be a fight.
I had no idea
I was so mad.
what happened at all. But
he would not talk. Like,
my manager calls me later.
couldn't-
He's like, bro,
I was just like,
what is
and I go, and I will
going on?"
report this shit to HR. I was so pissed. I was like, that is not acceptable. I was so mad. And like, he avoided me because he knew, like, if he came near me, he was going to get an earful. And she wouldn't talk to me anymore because I was like, I will cut. And she, like, the term I will cut a bitch ran through my head so many times. And I'm sorry, that is not professional.
was
If any
just-
of my professional
It was just a
people are watching this, I
misunderstanding. Like,
apologize.
I'm sure she thought I did more than just pick it up and move it so I could use the toilet.
But if she doesn't want her
But-
shit touched, she shouldn't be leaving it around. And coming as a woman, like, if you don't want your unmentionables being messed with. Don't leave them out.
It just
to be
sounds
messed
like,
with.
what are you, a cat marking your territory?
Like,
with your
to me, I'm
stuff?
just like,
who knows? I don't know.
she knows that there are men coming in and
It
out
was-
of there all the time.
Yeah, it was nonsense. It
Sorry,
really was
I just,
nonsense,
I'm
but-
like, common sense. And then to be verbally accosted because I am in a very fiery mood.
Yeah.
Like, I'm feeling very, maybe it's the current situation I'm having to deal with, but I feel like people are coming at things that are, and I am like, I'm done. Like, I'm done playing nice. I feel very, like, I'm just like,
I felt that
come
way.
at me.
I felt
people.
that way the beginning of last week. Like, for some reason, I don't know why, but it was just like, I'm really done. Like, I was door dashing, and I was like, you know what? I'm really done with like Taco Bell and Wendy's and Firehouse subs not filling the drinks and having them prepared and ready for me to take for my customer. And them going, oh, there's a drink on that. Here's the cup.
Jacob, they require their customers to do that at Firehouse Subs.
I understand that. But my job is to pick up the order, make sure it's complete, and go and deliver it.
Okay, he loves to split hairs on stuff like this.
Okay.
And
It's not my job
Yes,
to
it is.
complete my customer's order. It is not.
Yes, it is.
No, it is not.
Oh my gosh. See, this sort of shit would piss me off. If I was your supervisor and you came to me and said that, I'd be like, it's a flippin' drink. Just do it. See, but then I get fired because then I get too fiery. But like,
No,
that's
I was
where
very
I'm at
nice
right now.
about it. I was just like, hey, I was like, excuse me, could I get my customer's order complete?
See, and this is what's interesting about you, I find, is like you choose to control certain things that are so weird to me. Like, I'm sitting here because I sit here and I think I've experienced several things with you, and you let so much crap go on so many things. Like, I mean, you're like, whatever, you're just like, whatevs. It's okay. But then a cup that's not filled, you were like, no, you go like, die. And I'm like, why?
Because I give and give and give, and I'm like, I can take this one. I want this one. Fill my cup.
But to me, I
I
think,
don't know.
why not have that sense of like, I'm not budging on this on other things. Why do you choose like the most minuscule things to like be, not minuscule, that's not right, but the most, in my mind, are the smallest things. That's where we get.
I don't know.
I don't know either. It's so funny to me.
I don't know. Maybe
you
it
do
just
that
stacks up to the point where I'm just like, okay, I need to start like taking, because I'm giving too much. I don't know.
Yeah. Sometimes you baffle me, and like I'm like, okay, whatever, but I'm like, he's gonna hold his ground on this one, really? Okay, whatevs.
Well, Alakai, can you think of anything to to continue on? I think we just kind of got on a tangent here. But.
Sorry.
Well, I guess to wrap it up. Obviously, we don't hate people. We actually want to love people. Like, we just want to be good humans to each other.
I don't know
and
what
we
you're
want to be
talking
good
about.
humans
I really
to be
hate
good to us.
I was gonna say she's in cut a bitch mode.
See, and that's the thing. I don't hate people, but man,
People
you
get on
cross
our nerves sometimes.
you cross certain boundaries, I will come at you.
I will say, Rian, one of the things that I admire about you a lot is that if anyone ever was to be in a fight or an argument with you, I would damn hope that I'm on your side.
No, it's true. It's true.
That is true.
But here's the thing. It's like I've never had to be in a physical altercation.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, like, people who get in physical altercations choose to do so because they don't have a leg to stand on, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you know not a leg, I don't know. Like, if you can't prove your point
With words?
you have to resort to, like, I've never had to resort to physical violence. But if it came to protecting, like physically protecting, But like, oh, there would have been like words. I would never actually cut somebody or do something. It's just a term to express the level of intensity in which I am feeling very enraged, if that makes sense. But I would fight if somebody came at anybody I love, like to physically harm. But I know you would too. Because I know you've dreamt about it, and I've gotten the inadvertent like arm flail punch because you're dreaming about protecting me in your dream. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
When we first got married, that happened. But
yeah, I mean, I have them every once in a while, but not as bad as it used to be.
But let me tell you, Alakai,
I had some personal stuff.
I got your back anytime. You let me know.
You. I appreciate that.
If anybody were to
Absolutely.
come at you, I'd be like, why are you messing with Alakai? He's legit good people.
He's my buddy.
He's legit good people.
Yeah.
I will. Yeah.
Well, I think
that
that's-
makes me feel so good. Thank you.
Yeah, we got your back, Jack.
Oh,
I think that's kind of what we're coming down to, is that like religion isn't bad, but there are some bad people within it. Like, and I can't say how blessed I feel to be in this country where we can think and feel the way that we want to, because we live in such a free country in comparison to many other countries around the world, despite all the negativity and stuff that happens on social media and some of these news outlets. But honestly, we just need to be better human beings to each other. We need to, as families, drive being better humans, as people are growing up. And I think if we just do that, I feel like this world can be just even a better place. I think that's a good place to end.
Amen.
So thank you guys so much
In the
for
name of
watching
Jesus
today.
Christ.
Amen. That was amazing. You
I
gotta
love
stop
it.
now.
All right, you guys, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you all in the next one.
I forget how to